Des pas marchands de la verte, je ne comprends pas. Bienvenue à Better Than Food. Good morning, everybody. Bonjour. Ça va? Ça va. Comment allez-vous, monsieur? Oh, madame. A quick one today. Just when you thought everything was getting back to normal, I come and I pull this shit out on you. The last cigarette I ever smoked was a Marlboro Light that was offered to me by Loke Robek, who is a Danish noise musician affiliated with that scene over there in Copenhagen that is responsible for all that great stuff right now, like Ice Age and the Posh Isolation label and all that. This was last year when Lust for Youth came to Portland. I was talking to him and I was trying to convince him to work on this crazy project I got going. Nice guy. And this band, Lust for Youth, that he was playing with is this groovy kind of let's go to the beach and take ecstasy kind of pop music, which I've really come to appreciate, especially when I go to the beach and take ecstasy. I remember that night that while we were talking, there was this guy who popped out of nowhere, and I can't remember his name. I wish I did. And he was a soft-spoken, really polite, really liked the idea of the book reviews that I was doing at the time, and he recommended one thing. He was really emphatic, and it was Alfred Jarry. That is all I remember from that night. I wish I could remember that guy's name. I think it was like, I want to say George or something, but it could just be just pulling that out of nowhere. But yeah, that is what I remember from that night. And I never forgot it, but I just ran into it. I just found this the other day over at Stories Books and Cafe in Echo Park in Los Angeles. Nice little shop, brilliantly curated. If you ever get the chance and you're in the area, I suggest you go. And this is an incredible edition, translated into English from New Directions, who are great. This is only like $15. It's a paperback, and if you'll see, it has everything in like these handwritten notes. All the dialogue, all the everything, all that. I think this was published in 1962 or so. It even has these brilliant illustrations, yeah. Today is not a fictional novel in the traditional sense, but it's a... Could it be? Surely no, never. No, it's a play. The theater. Ubu Roi, or Roy, whatever. King Ubu by Alfred Jarry. Des pas marchands de la verte. Ubu Roi is the most notorious thing by this bizarre little man named Alfred Jarry, who only spent about 34 years on the planet Earth in this very strange, sad little existence where, you know, eventually he went down the most cliche fin de cycle path possible, drank himself to death, of course, as all of them seem to do. Jarry premiered this play at the age of 23 in Paris, where it opened to this sort of extremely polarized reaction a la, you know, The Rite of Spring. After its monstrous success or failure, call it whatever, they're both one and the same, Jarry became kind of an eccentric and started speaking in this weird, strange voice and invented this thing called pataphysics, which was, according to him, the science of imaginary solutions. You know, the fin de cycle, you know, this was 1896, you know. There were a lot of self-proclaimed weirdos and eccentrics who, you know, about 15, 20 years down the line were totally ripped off and built upon by all these other self-proclaimed weirdos and eccentrics and so on and so on and so on and so on. Of course, I'm talking about the surrealists, the Dadaists, all those guys. King Ubu made that possible, right? King Ubu kind of like kicked open the doors for that, or was a precursor, foreshadowing, whatever you would like to call it. But the funny thing about King Ubu Roi, whatever, you know, I mean, yeah, it's theater, and it's French, and it's, you know, notorious, and it's like, but, you know, it's got that kind of like flavor of black turtleneck, but, you know, this was like South Park of the time, right? You know, to assume that this is like, you know, kind of like high-brow intellectual stuff would be like people 100 years from now looking back and like seriously studying, you know, South Park or Chappelle's Show and shit like that. I just want to put that in perspective. This is a farce, you know, it's farcical, it's stupid, it's humorous, it's like Grand Guignol stuff. Ubu is a very clear satire on, you know, the wealthy upper bourgeoisie classes and their neglection of the poor in favor of getting richer and richer and richer and richer and richer. It's not really a clever story per se, it's just bombastic, crass and crude and funny. The main character of this is the repulsively oppressive, lovable marshmallow of a fascist Père Ubu. one giant insult to the normal moral mores of the fin de siècle era. Now, while I've picked up this awesome little illustrated version from the 60s, you know, with all the dialogue and translated it into English and all of these really awesome little kind of like doodle sketches throughout, the thing is, you know, reading this book is not going to be nearly as effective as seeing it on the stage, but I have the next best thing for you, because luckily in the modern era we have this wonderful platform called YouTube, wherein you can see the film adaptation from the mid-60s. I mean, if you smoke a joint and watch this, it's going to be better than The Yellow Submarine on acid. I was surprised how good this adaptation is. I mean, that makes this review possible. If I had just gotten the book and, you know, I really hadn't been able to see and witness the full thing, I wouldn't have gotten to experience all of the humor in it, because it's such a theater piece that you really have to see it in action in order for it to be effective. I feel personally, just reading this by itself is just not, it's not going to cut it. I mean, if you see this, pick it up because it's dope as hell, but you got to watch the adaptation. I don't think anybody's going to be putting this on anytime soon, you know, around here. This is kind of, yeah, it's antiquated. Still relevant though. Still very, very funny and totally, you know, authentically fucking weird. In the film, Ubu resembles kind of this bizarre, grotesque French version of Oogie Boogie from The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's astounding. It is so good. I bet it's better than many of the performances. What you have is like this, because of the black and white, they're able to do so much with perspective, zooming in and out with all these superimpositions and all this sort of like Terry Gilliam-esque animation, and a lot of this Michel, you know, stuff that Michel Gondry probably saw and ripped off, you know, for like, you know, photos of the actors that the other characters like rip into pieces, and, you know, just these strange little models and these bizarre frames, and so many multimedia integrations into the film itself that it's, characters become bigger or smaller in the frame before you even realize it. It's kind of like instantaneous and you're like, whoa! The humor is totally on point, even if you don't speak French. I really don't. But if you can speak just a little bit and you can catch the puns, it's magnificent. Chacun sa goût, chacun sa merde, very, very funny. It's the definition of bizarre, and it's everything from an adaptation of this that you could ever possibly want. There is a strange kind of spoof going on in the narrative on Shakespearean plots, you know, overthrown kingdoms, royalty in exile, ghosts of ancestors rising up to the throne, destiny for revenge, dramatic monologues, that sort of thing. But, and this is probably why it holds up so well, the undertone concerning wealth, power, and arrogance is really disturbing. There's actually this one scene in the adaptation that keeps sticking with me. It's where Ubu is like hurling all this gold down, you know, the peasants below the balcony of the castle or whatever, and they're literally fighting for it and killing each other for it and tearing each other apart, and they're you know, Ubu and Mayor Ubu and his first in command, they're all laughing about it as they're throwing this gold down, you know. Yeah, hee hee, haha, it's very funny, but, you know, there's clearly this kind of like French Revolution tone, guillotine sort of thing going on in the background, you know, kill all the nobles and start getting all the money, just keep killing them, keep killing them, keep killing them, keep killing them, you know, so there's a real dark side to this. It's not totally all fun, but, you know, neither is South Park, you know, there's a dark side to that too, because that always ends up having a moral message, so that's why I compare the two. It's never presented in a truly serious fashion, but of course it has this deeply sinister aftertaste. And that's a reason it really sticks with me. Again, it is an extremely entertaining film. I have never seen anything quite like it. I doubt you have too. Check it out. It so effectively utilizes its minimalist setup that it's, you know, really astounding. You know, we could do well to learn from it today. It is shocking to think that this actually did premiere at the Théâtre de Louvre in Paris way back when, you know. They must have been totally pissed off. Again, it foreshadows what's to come with surrealism and Dada and all of those guys kicking around then. You know, the absurd comedy of the 20th century, the idea of the absurd in general. Remember, this is 1896, man. Apparently, the idea had actually been growing in Jarry's consciousness ever since he was a student, and Ubu was based on this this teacher that he and his friends all hated, and they just kind of like made up these stories, you know, the adventures of Ubu. Jarry actually said before the play went on that night in Paris, where it premiered, he said to the audience, "You are free to see in Monsieur Ubu however many illusions you care to, or else a simple puppet, a schoolboy's caricature of one of his professors, who personified for him all the ugliness in the world." But tell me what you really think, Mr. Jarry. I guarantee you when you watch this, you will just get the feeling that nothing matters, and it's fabulous. So always remember that life is too short to read bullshit. Is that it? Des pas machin de la verte! Maybe I'll get something out later this week, maybe I won't, I don't know. I hope you guys are all doing very well. That's all I got for you today. Have a good one, guys. See you later. Ciao.